Hello, my name is Elaine Brownlee. I'm a program manager with the FCC Learning team based out of Regina. We normally offer events like these in person, but are doing our part by not having groups come together face to face. Thank you for taking time from your busy schedule and joining us today during these uncertain times. More than ever, we need to take care of ourselves, our families, our mental health, and stress. Before we introduce our speaker, a couple of items worth mentioning. First, today's session will be recorded. A link will be sent out after if you wish to listen to again or share it with others not able to make the call. Second, use the Q&A on the right side of the screen to ask any questions during the session, and we'll try to get to them within the allotted time frame. Now on to our session. We're super excited to offer this virtual presentation with Stephanie Staples, a leadership, health, and wellness expert. She's also an author. By attending today's presentation, you'll receive a copy of her book, her ebook, When Enlightening Strikes. Unfortunately, we are experiencing technical difficulties today, and you won't be able to see live, only an image of her beautiful face. Yesterday, after our 15-minute dry run turned into a full day of troubleshooting, our team is now more than ready to learn about overcoming stress and anxiety. In today's session, we'll focus on psychological concerns around anxiety, fear, and loss of control, hope and optimism in turbulent times, and being a role model for resiliency, wellness, and positive emotions. So, without further ado, I'll turn it over to Stephanie Staples.
Thank you so much, Elaine. I am so excited to be here. Even though you can't see me, it's better because I didn't have to comb my hair or change my clothes. It's kind of good. It's all good this way. So, but trust me, I look as beautiful as I do in that picture, maybe. I don't know. Anyways, I just want to welcome everybody here. I know you could be calling people and Zooming and etc. all day long. So I appreciate you taking time out of this for you. And I think it really says a lot about you that you're taking time for your emotional well-being amidst the turbulent times that we are all going through. We have people on the line from all over the country, which is amazing and fantastic. And one of the crazy things about this is that everybody gets it. Everybody gets what we're going through. But I do want to take a special moment to acknowledge the people. We have people from the Maritimes here who, as we all know, are going through something even more than the rest of us. And so my my empathy is with you in this time. And yeah, you guys, you have our hearts with you for sure. So disclaimer here, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a psychologist, I've never been through a pandemic before. I am a rewired nurse, I am a coach, and I have some ideas for better living, but I am just like you trying to get through this as best I can. And what I'd like to take you through today is a 3-step process for helping you deal with emotions. And while I can't hear you and we can't have an interactive session that way, there is a Q&A box there, and I would really love for you to please put in your questions as we go along, put in your comments, and Elaine will be our moderator. She will share those with me and we can go back and forth as much as possible. And when we are faced with times like this, emotions are typically running rampant. Things we've never been feeling before, in a way we've never been feeling them before. There is no right, there is no wrong. And when we have this plethora of emotions, it can be very, very overwhelming, and we don't know how to process that. Our mind does not know how to process it. So if you hear nothing else today, hear this one thing. I want you to just think about one emotion. So I want you to try and push away the clutter of emotions and just pull out one emotion that has been predominant in your thoughts, maybe keeping you up at night, that just keeps reoccurring. We're going to go through this 3-step process, and the process is called NAP. So although regular naps are also recommended, this NAP stands for notice and acknowledge and plan. So the first thing to do is just pull that one emotion out that's driving you a bit crazy and just notice it. That is it. Getting rid of all that extra clutter. So we're going to pull out that one emotion. When you pull out that one emotion, if you could just type that in the chat box, that would be really helpful. So we can start to see if there's many that are the same or one pops out, or what kind of things you're going through. So that's the biggest thing. Pull out just one emotion. Our bodies, our minds, we can handle one emotion at a time. And we're going to take that one emotion through this process, and then later, tomorrow or next week, you can process a different one, but just pull out one emotion. Once you have that one emotion, it's time to acknowledge it. So all emotions are, they're information. And if we can take them as such, then we can start to do something with them. So the whatever emotion that you've identified, this is information. So we want to know, is this information helping us or hurting us? Is this information leading us to where we want to go, or is it holding us back from the direction we want to go? One of the things I think is really important is that there is no right, there is no wrong. There is no shaming, there is no blaming. You're not a bad or less than because you are feeling a certain way. It doesn't mean that you're not capable and caring and kind. You're just feeling that one emotion. There's no way you should be feeling. They're all okay. Just acknowledging that feeling. Thank you for letting me know what that feeling is. I appreciate that information. I'm a normal human being for feeling that emotion, and it gets to be okay. So Elaine, would you be able to let me know if there's some emotions that are popping up in the Q&A that are similar, or if there's one that you'd like to work with personally, or if there's one that pops up that's
yes,
interesting
Stephanie,
to you?
There's actually some great ones here. So the first one that popped up is guilt. And the second one is disappointment, frustration, and uncertainty.
Okay, so those are all really good, juicy ones. So let's just imagine all of those things are like fluttering through your head, which I'm sure for probably 98% of us, all of those have been in our head. But so we'll just go with the first one that you said. So guilt. So it is not right, it is not wrong. It just is what it is. It's just information. So when we want to ask ourselves, is this guilt that I'm feeling, is it helping or hurting? So I want you to imagine, so in healthcare, the question that is most asked is, how is your pain on a scale of 1 to 10? Okay, 10 is like excruciating agony, I'm going to die in the next 30 seconds, and 1 is like, I can't even tell there's something wrong. So normally, and when I was talking to the FCC group live, my job, as a coach and a inspirational speaker, would be to help people move. And maybe if you're at a 7.5, hey, we're going to try and get you to like an 8.5. So now it's like, oh, maybe I'm like hovering at like 4.2. So you know what? We just want to get you to 5. Okay, we're not trying to get you to like 8 or 7. We're just trying to move the needle a little bit. So when we're dealing with this feeling called guilt, we're acknowledging it. Yes, there's a reason that I feel guilty, probably because maybe I'm not working at the level I think I should be working at. Maybe I'm not parenting at the level that I think I should be parenting at. Maybe my relationship is suffering because I'm not as actively participating because of everything else that's going on. So I'm not doing my relationship as well. So I feel guilty about all this kind of things. Do you think I'm kind of on track here, Elaine? If people could engage with me here, hopefully I'm speculating why you might be feeling guilty. So acknowledging that it's okay, and you might want to sit with that for a little while. So a couple of the things we can do around that. One is called a BMW session. So if I may say, bitch, it stands for bitch, bone, and wine. So you kind of carve out a little bit of time. Maybe you set your buzzer for 5 minutes, and I'm just gonna bitch, moan, and whine about this, about why I feel so guilty, why this is driving me crazy, and why this is so prevalent in my mind. And then after a short amount of time, so it's okay to get all those emotions out, but you want to put a boundary on that amount of time. Okay, when that buzzer goes off, you have another BMW session, and that one stands for breathe and move forward willingly. Okay, so what we want to do, acknowledge that emotion and just get it out. So if you don't want to get it out loud, another technique would be to write it down. So put pen to paper Again, you can set that buzzer for 5 minutes or 7 minutes or whatever you want, and you just begin to write. I feel guilty because. Guilt means this to me. Whatever, it doesn't matter what you write. Nobody has to read it. Nobody has to edit it. It's not going to be published anywhere. It's just to get that stuff out of your head. Because if that stuff sits in your head, it's not going to allow you to process properly and to make room for the clear thoughts and the action that you want to take, to move that needle a little bit in the right direction. So notice that one emotion. Acknowledge that one emotion. P stands for plan. Once you've got that stuff out of your head, the plan, what are we going to do to move forward with this? So here's what I believe about guilt. I believe there's two kinds of guilt. There's a healthy guilt and there's an unhealthy guilt. So a healthy guilt would be and we all know how guilt feels, how it feels in your body and in your mind, right? It's like, oh, sometimes it's in your stomach or it's in your shoulders or your neck, or it just doesn't feel, it just physically does not feel good. But a healthy guilt, it happens when you have, done something wrong, when you have lied, when you have done something purposefully to make somebody's life worse or something. You're supposed to feel guilty. You're supposed to feel guilty so that you can have remorse, so that you can make amends, so that you can apologize. That's a healthy type of guilt. But what many of us feel a lot of the time, and especially in times of turbulence, is an unhealthy guilt. You know what? I'm not baking bread. Some people are baking bread. Maybe I should be baking bread. I'm not spending as much. I'm not spending as much time with my work because I've got to be home with. I've got to be doing the kids thing, and I'm not giving my kids enough attention because I have to be doing the work things. And these things are not things that you are doing on purpose. You're not just sitting around watching TV and ignoring work and ignoring your children or ignoring your relationships. There are real situations that are happening that are causing these things to be a fact. It's not something that you're doing on purpose. So that leads to an unhealthy guilt. Okay? And the unhealthy guilt is not purposeful. Healthy guilt is purposeful. Okay? It's telling you, I'm giving you a message that you need to do something about it. Make amends, show remorse, apologize. But if it's an unhealthy guilt, it's not serving you well. It's not moving the needle. It's not making you who you want to be. So if you can get yourself to kind of step away from that situation and say, is this a healthy guilt or an unhealthy guilt? Are you doing the best you can in the situation, given all the other circumstances going on? And I bet for a huge percentage of us, we are. Given everything else that's going on right now, this is the best I got. Tomorrow might be better. Yesterday might have been worse. Maybe it depends on how well you slept or like all the other factors. But today, are you doing the best you can? At this moment in time, are you doing the best you can? Are you as patient as you can? Are you as loving as you can? And usually this is the best I got right now. And if I want to do better, then something else needs to change. I need to maybe shift something else out, and we'll get into that in a moment. But Elaine, you get to speak on behalf of everyone that cannot right now. But
So we definitely have received a few comments with yes exclamation parts. So I think you're hitting the hammer on the nail, Stephanie. Okay. One other comment that came up, which I think is interesting as well. It says, I have a few female coworkers who are facing extra burden between homeschooling and expectations that they will still be a superstar at work. How can I help them?
So you give them this recording. So I think here's, okay, 2 words. Maybe it's 1 word. It's a word with a hyphen. Self-compassion. There is no other time in life, I don't think, than right now that we need to be more self-compassionate than we ever have been before. And usually, okay, so my thing, right, my business called Your Life Unlimited. My tagline's like, bring your A game to work in life. You know what? I don't even agree with this right now. We cannot bring our A game. I don't think it's possible. I don't think it's possible right now. Like, we just need to bring a game, like just any old game, and the bar, and usually I want to raise the bar, but right now, no, like the bar, we can't have the bar as high as it was before. We just can't. We need to lower the bar a little bit. We need to be gentle with ourselves. We need to be compassionate with ourselves. We need to ask ourselves, how can we do this in a way that is, going to maintain our sanity and still be loving and kind. And we cannot, I don't think, we don't need to be superstars right now. We just need to get through this with our mind, our body, our relationships intact. We need to lower the bar. So for me, I have decided, because all of my work is literally gone, I need to lower the bar in my work. But what I decided was I can raise, so I don't have little kids at home anymore, but I can raise the bar in my relationship. So what if it will be the worst financial year of my career? What if that is so? But this is the best year of my marriage, that I pour my energy into making this the best marriage I have ever had. And I come out of this year going, well, I don't have any money much, but you know what? I have like a kick-ass marriage. I'm thinking that's going to be okay. And when Elaine mentioned about being a role model at the beginning, like this is what I envision. In a month or two, or whenever they decree we may go out, we're going to have this big like coming out party, and it's going to be like awesome. It's going to be fantastic. And next year we're going to celebrate this day. Remember the day that we could come out and we could like sit at the same picnic table, and wasn't that awesome? And we're going to celebrate this. And when I think about how I was last year, okay, next year, when I'm thinking back to this time, I want to be a role model. I want to know that I didn't just, hole up in a corner and in a fit of exhaustion because I wasn't everything to everybody. I want to know that I did as good as I can with the resources I had, in the circumstances I had. I want to be able to hold my head up and say that. So what do I need to do today so that I can look back next year and say that? And I don't want to be like, I wasn't a good enough mother, and I didn't do my work good enough, and I didn't. No, you know what? I worked really hard at making my marriage strong. That's what I did during COVID. That's what I did these emotional wellness sessions for people so that I would feel like I was helping people move their life, in the right direction. Not jumping into bringing your A game to work in life. No. So maybe just bringing your C game. And your kids are, you have a lot of years with your kids. And if you spend a few months where you're not exactly who you want to be with them and giving them every moment of whatever, it's not right or wrong. It's just different. It's just different. Like, how do you want to show up? And sometimes it's just stepping away from that and looking back, kind of looking from that bird's eye view. How do I want to be looking at this when I'm not like shoved up close to the glass? Whether it's parenting or the homeschooling or your work. And most workplaces I know, man, they're being pretty darn forgiving because they've all got the same problems. Nobody is expecting you to work at top capacity right now, because we just do the best we can. That's all we can do. And even if you have a queue of 100 people, the only thing you can do is one person at a time. The only thing you can do is one problem at a time. That's all we can do. And that's okay. So I think, to answer your question, that was a long-winded answer, but I think self-compassion it can be a saving grace. And what does self-compassion mean to you? And how can you be compassionate with yourself? And I think one of the biggest things about that is asking for what you need. So asking for help. And I know a lot of times people think, well, if they loved me, they would know what to do. And if I have to tell you, then never mind. You know what? I don't care how much they love you, or how long they've known you, or how long you've worked together. Sometimes you just have to ask for what you need. And it's okay. It's okay to ask for what you need. And it's necessary to ask for what you need. And I think that will make a huge difference. And how you ask, that's a whole other conversation, right? So, if you're asking in a way that's gentle and kind, and like, I'm not desperate, but I'm wondering if you can help me with such and such. Or, I really actually just need a pat in the back. Am I doing okay? Or, some validation. This is what I need. And if you're like me in most relationships, man, if somebody actually tells me that and I don't have to try and guess and I don't have to try and figure it out, thank you. Like, thank you for telling me that. And it doesn't mean I can't always help you, but maybe I can't do exactly that, but I could do this, so there's some room for a negotiation. Elaine, I'll take a breath here.
I think that was really well said, Stephanie. There was some really good tips and advice in there, and it is really key to ask for help. There is a message here for you, a comment. It says, I love this message. Work on your relationships, not only personal, marriage in brackets, but also be there for your family, your coworkers, friends. As I've heard said a few times before, we're all in the same boat, but each of us is riding a different wave. Connection and communication is a key factor.
Nice. So one of the things and one of the techniques, and thank you so much, I really, really appreciate the comments because I'm so missing not having the visual and the interaction. So this is really nice for me. I appreciate you being the conduit for that, Elaine. So one of the questions about making your relationship better is adding the word really. So when somebody says, how are you? Like right now, I feel like the only answer to that is, if it's true, is like, I am healthy. Like I'm healthy. Like that is the number one. But usually when people are saying, how are you? It's such a flippant comment, right? But if you were to say, how are you? Or how can I help you? If you add the word really to the end of the sentence, it absolutely changes the conversation. How are you? Really? How are you? Fine. How are you really? You know what? I'm actually feeling like ridiculously overwhelmed right now. And it just, or whatever. And it opens the door to a whole other conversation. How can I help you? Oh, nothing. I'm good. I'm fine. How can I help you? Really? That one word can actually be a game changer. I had a friend who, before this, she was going through cancer treatments, and she would send out a e-news to kind of her group of friends or whatever, and I talked to her back and I said, how are you really? And she said, well, if you really want to know. And then it was a whole different conversation after that. So, you know, if you do really want to help and trying to make those relationships better, and asking simple things like what's one thing we could do to feel more connected at the end of the day. So Chris, our IT miracle worker, was talking about, he did happy hours at the end of his workday, right? So this doesn't just have to be about intimate relationships. And I don't know if Chris is interested in having a little conversation about this, but I thought that was a great idea. And if he did want to come online or chat with us, tell us about, I think he's going to.
Yes, I yesterday, for instance, we had some technical issues we worked throughout the day, and felt a little frustrated. But you know, if I was out with workmates in my more normal life before all this, you know, maybe we go grab a quick happy hour or something, kind of reset for the night. And yesterday I ended up doing that with my 8-year-old. He didn't drink, don't worry about that, but we shared a bowl of Doritos and a couple of cookies, and just kind of sat and talked about our days together. And it was kind of cool, and it accomplished a bit of a connection with someone in my family, as well as kind of was a part of my regular routine in its own way.
So thank you so much for sharing. What's super cool about that is, like, I just think it's awesome for your kids to see that you have days that are frustrated, or that you feel, I don't know, like bullied, or like whatever the situation is, and that you could have that conversation with them, like, man, like, so what would you have done in this situation, or like, in case this happens again, or like, man, or them seeing how, you know, you wind down, or to be able to have that conversation. I think that's worth a ton, rather than being the parent that always has all the answers and everything's all together and nothing's ever wrong in your world. It's all perfect. No, like, we had a hell of a day yesterday, and it was, and through every moment of it, and what I mentioned to Chris, like, through the whole thing, his voice and his manner, like, was so reassuring and so kind and so compassionate. Like, I literally many times felt like I just wanted to just cry, but he kept me up. Now, maybe on his end, he felt like he wanted to cry too, but I couldn't tell that. So he kept me up. But then when we hung up, maybe he was like, now I really want to cry, right? So I'm going to have Doritos. It's going to be better. So
yeah, that sums up the day pretty much.
Yeah, so I mean, we can really do that and be there for other people, and you know, though it wasn't his place to cry there, his job at that moment was to keep me up, which he did. But then after that, it's exhausting like whatever you're doing for other people, right? It's absolutely exhausting. So then what are you going to do for yourself? That's where that self-compassion comes in, to be like, oh my God. And just to let people know, we didn't fix it after 6 whatever hours. Like we're making it work like this because we didn't get it how we wanted to get it, but we had this is plan L or whatever plan it was. So after all that work, it still didn't work. But we're still like, we're here, we're happy, we're making it work, and it's all fine. So like, what else can you ask? Like, what else can you ask for? We do the best we can with the stuff we got, and that's it. Thanks for sharing, Chris.
So we have another comment. I gave myself permission to not be as productive as I normally am at work. It's freeing, and my employer understands and are not pushing me. I'm getting work done, and that's enough.
Oh, okay. Well, whoever wrote that is going to do the next webinar, because I mean, that sums it up, right? Your employers understand. You do the best you can. People know the kids are popping into Zoom and the animals are crawling on the computer and whatever else is happening. And I can't help but think, in some ways it's helping us be more understanding and helping us get to know each other on a different level. And I this is maybe the optimist in me, I really do believe we are going to come out of this better and stronger and more understanding, and with our priorities intact. This is what I truly believe. It might take a little while to get there, but that's how I feel. And is it true? I can't promise it's true, but this is what I know for sure. It makes me feel better to think that. Okay? And that's what this is about. This is about saving yourself at this moment. I need to save myself emotionally, physically, socially, intellectually. I just need to save myself. So when the bar is a little bit lower and you give that lovely person, that smart person that wrote that, you just give yourself permission to give what you can and be who you be at this time. You don't have to be all things to all people all the time. You cannot be. And I'd like to just share with you one little thing that my husband and I do at the end of the day, and it's really made a big difference. Is so typically we'll go to bed. You go to bed and it's like the laundry list of things that didn't get done. And so we just started asking each other right before bed, what did you actually, the first thing we started was, what was your favorite part of the day? And at first we're like, we're just like, we can't think of anything. And then eventually we start to think of something. And then as we kept asking it, it wasn't like one favorite thing. There was like a few things that were nice. So we changed the question. And now the question we ask is, what did you enjoy about your day? And that is literally the last thing we say to each other before we go. So he's saying his things and I'm saying my things. Oh, it reminds me of this, or it reminds me of that. That was neat. And most of the times it's not huge, groundbreaking things. It's something very, 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 very simple. Oh, we love that video from whatever. And oh, our suit today was like really good. And, I just enjoyed coming up and watching that show, or that sort of thing. But what a difference to close your eyes to that than, if you watch the news before bed, or if you just have that laundry list of things that you didn't get done, and then a new laundry list of things that are coming that you have to do tomorrow, and more overwhelmed. So this again falls under that self-compassion. What can you do just to make yourself feel better? Breathe. Thoughts, Elaine?
I think that's a great way to end the day, and something that I certainly could put into practice myself. There's a couple other emotions that were listed here. One is disappointment, which I think that we're all feeling in some shape or form.
Yeah, so it can be the disappointment because we're not producing to the level that we think we should be producing, disappointment that we can't see our family and friends, disappointment that we can't do our normal schedule. There's so many reasons to feel disappointed. And while I did say acknowledge those feelings, they are real, they are true to you, there's no right, no wrong. I do want to mention one little thing, because a friend of mine said, she said agony. She said, it's just agony that I can't see my grandson. And I felt like, and then this may seem contrary to what I'm saying, acknowledge your feelings and they're all good. I just want us to be careful of using words like that, because I feel like, hey, I can't see my grandson. It's sad, it's frustrating, it's disappointing, it doesn't make me happy, but it's not agony, okay? Agony is maybe what those people in Nova Scotia are going through. Agony is needing a respirator and not getting a respirator. Agony is not being able to be by the side of your dying mother, or with, like, those things are agony. So I think it's really important to watch the words that we use and to not make them bigger than they actually are. I'm, more isolated, but last week our power went out. So we had no power for 6 hours or something. And it was like, oh, like isolated with no power is a completely different story than being isolated with power, right? I never thought to appreciate power before until it got taken away. And then I was like, oh, this really is yucky, right? But I can breathe actually quite well now. But if I couldn't breathe well, if I was sick, all of a sudden breathing is like, oh my goodness, I forgot to appreciate that. So just to notice the words that are coming out of your mouth and making sure that they kind of accurately reflect. And after, I had this conversation with my friend, she's like, yeah, you're right. It's not really agony, but it's sad. Yes, it is sad. And then the sad emotion, then we can talk about that one. So for disappointment, the quickest way to shift your attitude from that of lack to that of abundance is by focusing on what's going right. So I'm going to say that again. The quickest way to shift your attitude from that of lack to that of abundance is by focusing on what's going right. So the disappointment is real. So you've noticed that one emotion, singled that out. It is real. You're acknowledging that emotion. Maybe you're going to write about it. Maybe you're going to talk about it. You're going to kind of get that out of your head. And then you're going to ask yourself, what is this? Is this emotion, disappointment, helping me to get where I want to get to? Is it helping me move the needle up? Or is it hurting? Is it moving the needle out the other way? It's probably not helping, right? So then with the plan, we need to figure out how to flip this emotion. So when we feel this, what are 1 or 2 or 3 things that you can do to flip that emotion? So if we want to say focus on gratitude, maybe when we feel that emotion hit after we kind of acknowledge it, we're going to make a plan. We're going to start a gratitude list. So I got up the other morning and I made a book. I'm just going to grab it right here. I did a Facebook Live video about this actually because I read them all. So I just took and I numbered my paper. I numbered it 1 to 100. And I started writing down things that I was grateful for. So my mom being here at 94 and a half, living in Canada, freedom, 3 healthy kids, Noah, FaceTime, a kind husband, running water, money in the bank, a good upbringing, being able to breastfeed. Don't ask me where that one came from. Really nice friends, good memories, courage to try new things. And on I went. I wrote 100 things. I'm not saying you have to do 100 things, but it's a really neat exercise. And wouldn't it be cool to do this around the dinner table with your family? And if you do something like this, if you pre-number everything, because you might think, oh my God, 100 things, how am I going to think of 100 things? Well, I actually stopped at about 148. I stopped, and I'll probably continue this list at some point. But it was a super fun exercise to do, and I think it would be really neat to do it with your family or with your partner, or even over a Zoom call or something like that. It puts the frame of reference back where you want it, to a place of wanting to help, a place of wanting to make you feel better. Because I know for me, when I feel sad, disappointed, guilty, disheartened, angry, I can't do my best work. I can't show up for you today like I want to show up for you today. It is only when I come from a place of feeling good that I can sustainably do good for others, right? So that feeling of disappointment is leaving me in a low place. I can't do my best work. I can stay there for a bit, but then I got to get out of it. And I got to know what brings me out of it. So I know that focusing on things going right brings me out of it. I know that moving my body brings me out of it. So motion changes emotion. If you don't like how you're feeling, I'm feeling disappointed. I'm sitting in this chair on my couch and I just feel like, I just feel disappointed with everything. Move your body. Motion changes emotion. If you're sitting down, get up, go for a walk, go up and down the stairs, dance to a fun song. Do something that's going to make your body move. That's going to make your mind move. It's going to cause that shift. And we don't need like a 180-degree flip. We just need the needle to move a little bit. That's all we need. We just need the needle to move a wee bit. Nature, you know, like having some, sticking your head into a plant, or going to hug a tree, or getting outside and around some kind of nature, changing your environment, changing your scenery a little bit. That can make a huge difference. So I would say, like, make a list of, and again, this could be a cool thing to do with your family or your partner, but when we have a feeling that's not serving us well, what are 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, however many things that we can do, so that, you know, maybe it's doing some deep breathing, maybe it's doing some stretching, maybe, I don't know what it is for you, but having that list and you have that feeling, you're like, okay, I got to go to that list, and boom, I'm going to do this. I'm telling you, you're going to feel different. You're going to feel different in just a few minutes. Breathing.
Wow, Stephanie, that was amazing. All the tips that you gave, like focusing on gratitude and getting up and moving and connecting with nature. I'm just writing constantly down my notes, and I'm looking forward to rewatching the video afterwards. So we've got about 5 or so minutes left, and I guess to close, maybe one other emotion that we could talk a little bit about is uncertainty, because we don't know what lies ahead or how long this is going to last.
We do not. But here's sort of how I feel about uncertainty. Is like we never know. We never know, but it's just now that we realize we never know. But in our normal life, like, we didn't know if we're going to get hit by a bus the next day. We didn't know if somebody we love is going to get sick. We didn't know if we're going to lose our job. Like, we don't know what's about. We never know. That is what we call our life. But this is what, and it's funny because, so again, back to my business model. My business model is speaking live in front of people. Now, many of my colleagues have online programs and online courses, and I was like, I don't want to do that. Like, I knew that I had a bad business model, like, because it counted on me showing up, right? But I chose to believe, well, if something happens, I'm smart enough, I'm creative enough, I'll figure something else out. And of course, now that has actually happened, but I think that about uncertainty in general. We don't know what's about to happen, but in however old you are, you have already come through many, many challenges, many difficult situations, and you're all here. You all said, yes, I'm going to come onto this call because I want to try and perform even better. Okay, so you're all smart and creative and resourceful people, and you will figure something out. You will figure it out. So that knowing, and I think again that falls under self-compassion as well, that I'm a smart, caring, capable person. And I'm resourceful. I'm super resourceful, right? You're resourceful. You'll ask somebody. You'll partner with somebody. You will figure it out. Whatever happens, you're gonna make it better than it could be, because you're gonna use all your resources, all your talents, all your gifts, and just that knowing you have great people in your life. You have a community that supports you. So we don't have to know, we shouldn't know, we can't know, we won't know, and it gets to be okay, because we didn't know before anyway. I hope that made some sort of sense. I hope that you found one idea in our short time together that you can use to feel a little more hopeful, more empowered, more in control. That's my hope.
I think that wraps it up really nicely, Stephanie, and I think you tied a bow on it. So I want to thank everyone for being with us today and asking great questions and comments and sharing your emotions and what you're going through. And thank you, Stephanie, for sharing your expertise, your insight, especially during these difficult times, giving us these practical tips and tools to use. I love the acronyms of NAP and BMW, and connecting back to nature and just dealing with our emotions and gratitude. And there's just so much that we took away from this today. And Stephanie generously donated her time today. So thanks again for giving back. So everyone, thanks again. Expect an email in the next day or two with a link to the recording of this session. You'll also receive the link to download Stephanie's ebook, and you can subscribe to her blog and newsletter, which is awesome. So until next time, take care, everyone, and be well.
Thanks so much.